We're going to talk about Shama Sawant. Now, I don't know if everyone has seen this. There are two spots here that I do want to highlight. Shama Sawant had an interview. I can't talk, sorry. An interview recently with Status Quo, and she was talking about the Amazon union efforts and also the Democratic Party. And so I want you to hear what she says. This is the first clip that I want to play. So I'm just going to fall back here. And here we go.
Raise the question of a new party for the working class.
Right. And let me also ask you, because it seems to me that, Bernie, when Obama was president, I mean, he stood outside the White House with protesters for Dakota Access Pipeline. I know he did a couple other protests while Obama was president, directly thumbing Obama's policies. We can't get in Bernie's head now, but it was effective. AOC, when she first got in there, was protesting outside Pelosi's office, which got media coverage. So it just seems to me, put aside whatever their motivations are, but if their goal is to be effective, those strategies have been more effective in either raising awareness, inspiring or rallying the base, and building the progressive base and organizing. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me what they're doing now.
Yep. And I just want to chime in here for a second. And I want to remind you, why is that? Why is it that in the beginning, when AOC went in, she was protesting, outside Nancy Pelosi's office, and stop that? Why is it that when Obama was in office, Bernie Sanders was protesting, against what he was just talking about with the pipeline? Why did they stop that? Because I'm willing to bet you that someone inside the Democratic Party spoke to them. I'm willing to bet that they were spoken to. If you want to continue your career, got to go along with the establishment line. You can't be too hostile. Can't fight too hard. Just a little bit to show that you're trying to do something, but not really do anything. I'm willing to bet that's what happened. Let's go back in.
But I wanted to ask you about specifically looking at Amazon. Do you think if they're successful at this second warehouse, which based on sources, they are going to be, what would you expect from Amazon? I mean, Amazon and Jeff Bezos more than most. Amazon won't even acknowledge the first victory. If there's a second victory at this smaller warehouse, I mean, I don't put it past Jeff Bezos, who's really still running this thing, even though he's not CEO anymore. I don't put it past them to start shutting down warehouses to make a point.
I mean, they could do that, absolutely, and they might do they might take other steps as well. What is clear is that they are not going to relent. And I think this question that you asked, interestingly, is actually connected to your earlier point as well. That it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for AOC to have done that really good, sort of occupying Nancy Pelosi's office alongside climate activists, for Bernie to have called out Obama and held rallies. That sort of thing works. So it doesn't make sense why they would stop doing that. I think that question is connected to this question as well, is what kind of sustained strategy do we need in the face of Amazon's opposition? So it basically comes down to a very fundamental fact that everybody has to understand. If you are interested in changing society for the better, then you better get this in your head, which is that the capitalist class, the billionaires, management at your company, they will not relent just because you have won.
And this is something that I want you to know. This is why I talk about the class issue a lot. What she just said, the millionaires and the billionaires will not relent. Those are the people that you should be focusing on. You should be, well, more so the billionaires than the millionaires, to be honest with you. Those are the people that you should be focusing on. Not so much the person to your left and the person to your right, but the people at the top with all the money. They are the ones that control what really goes on. They are the ones that control what can be said and what cannot be said. This is why we have all these issues with censorship now. If you've noticed, we've been talking about that a lot. They are the ones that control the narrative. That is why there's certain things we can't talk about. That is why there's certain perspectives that you will never hear on mainstream media. Not even just mainstream media, but also even in Hollywood. The people at the top are the ones you need to focus on. And she's right. They are relentless. And this is why I said if we wanted a general strike, you can't have a general strike for one day. You can't have a general strike for 1 week. Amazon, Walmart, they can surpass that. That's nothing to them. If you want a general strike in this country, we would have to do things like shutting down transportation. We need to shut down the ports. That is how you would accomplish it. Because if you can't have products come in and products go out, that is what is really going to affect capital in this country. That's what I want people to understand. So yes, I still say it. Yes, if you want to boycott Amazon, do it. If you want to boycott Walmart, do it. But I want you to know that's pennies to them. You have to stop the transportation of the goods. As long as they can transport their product, they're still going to make money. Let's go back into this video.
One or two unions, they are not about to say, oh yes, you know, morally you are right and I am wrong, and yes, it is wrong for Jeff Bezos to own all these billions. It's wrong for billionaires to have become trillions of dollars richer. Yes, you have educated me. Now let's meet halfway at the table and you can get a $30 an hour wage. No, that is not how it works. The more you win, the harder they will go after you. And that is, you know, and I'm not speaking in theory. That is exactly the experience we've had in Seattle over and over and over again, and they never give up. In fact,
did you hear what she just said? The harder you work, the more they're going to come after you. Let's look back at history. Look at what happened with Martin Luther King. Look at what happened with Fred Hampton, the Black Panther Party, which was a global party, by the way. If everyone doesn't realize that, there were Black Panthers in South Korea, not just the United States. Look at what happened to Malcolm X. The harder they worked, the more they did, the more they came after them. And it's not just the media. The media is controlled as well. It is the people who have the money. You need to watch out for the banks. You need to watch out for companies like BlackRock and Vanguard that are shareholders, multiple companies they're a part of. BlackRock is incredibly dangerous. They are buying up property and kicking people out. When I talk about gentrification, gentrification isn't just professional people moving into low-income neighborhoods and the landlord saying, okay, they're willing to pay anything, let me jack up the price of the rent. Part of gentrification is also companies like BlackRock going into these communities and buying up these properties and building these multi-million-dollar condos and renting them to people that can only afford them and kicking the poor people out. We have to pay attention to those companies as well. You have to really pay attention to commercial property, not just your local landlord. Let's go back in.
You know, in 2019, we won our second re-election. Only months after I had won, they launched a recall attack against me. And we were able to defeat them, but only because we did not stop using the strategy of fighting. So my point being that whether it is elected representatives who genuinely want to fight for workers or workers themselves in union battles, there is no point, there's no magical end point for stopping your fighting strategy and then it can be peaceful. No, as long as it is capitalism, it is class war. And so
yes, 100%. As long as there is capitalism, there is a class war. You can't just push back and say, okay, we got what we wanted. We're all good. We're all set. No, they'll come back with something else. The reason why someone like Kshama Sawant was able to win, and the reason why she was able to beat her recall, no matter what hit her, no matter how many things like Amazon came after her, all these different companies and organizations in Seattle came after her, no matter what came after her, the reason why she was able to win, two things. Number one, she didn't stop fighting. Her group, Socialist Alternative, they did not stop fighting. And number two, she did not run in the two-party system. This is a big deal. This is why someone like India Walton, who was also a socialist or a social dem, I think she called herself, this is why I believe her campaign failed. Because India Walton was running through the Democratic Party. Remember, at first she was leading. She was running through the Democratic Party. AOC came down and they gave her her endorsement. Chuck Schumer endorsed India Walton. And just like that, the numbers changed. The gentleman that she ran against ran as an independent, I believe. I have to double check. I believe it was an independent, but he won by write-in votes. Guys, he won by write-in votes. This is the thing. I sincerely wished India Walton would have ran outside of the two-party system. If there's any lesson I think we need to learn from Kshama Sawant, she's proven that you don't have to do that. Now, yes, it's a local position, but still, city council, I told you guys, city council controls the budget. Let's go back in. Rodrigo, you said I didn't read your super chat. I thought I did. Eric, can you try to find that for me and star it just in case I missed it? All right, we're going to go back in.
There is no comfortable point in the future where then you can stop fighting. So in other words, if we want to replicate what ALU was able to win at JFK8, then we need a sustained and continuation, sustained continuation of that strategy in warehouse after warehouse, workplace after workplace, industry after industry, and we need those strategies to understand how to build solidarity. Obviously, tactically, the campaigns will vary because in the South you'll have to take up different issues. In the West Coast, you'll have to, the terrain will be different, consciousness will be slightly different. But the point is that the basic ideas of a fighting approach, of a class struggle approach, they win hands down. And moreover, that is the only thing that wins. So unless you understand this, you will not be able to win. And the reason AOC and Bernie, for example, stopped doing those things, and I think there's a difference between Bernie Sanders and AOC in the sense that I think Bernie does believe in a sort of a fighting approach a little bit. I mean, I have some disagreements with him, obviously, and I don't think he goes far enough. But I think AOC and the squad really have not even come to the point where Bernie ever got, because they immediately got the memo from Pelosi and the power brokers that if you go...
See, this is what I was talking about. This is why they don't fight. They don't push back. They already got the memo.
Against us like in this way, then there will be a price to pay. So the question is, are they willing to pay that price? I am willing to pay that price. That is why we are still standing here, and that is why we have won all these victories. But it is not a test of personal purity. It is a question of what is the kind of political organization we can have in order to make possible what we have accomplished in Seattle, in order to win the kind of victories that ALU did. Those political organizations should be the central question. It should not be based on personalities or genius, whatever, like superstars. It should be based on what kind of union do we need? What are our concrete demands going to be? What is our strategy going to be to talk to workers? And electorally, the question should be what kind of political organizations do we need? What kind of campaign program should be? And who are the candidates we believe will actually stand up to the intense pressure, and that pressure never relents? So do we have people who will stand up to that pressure every single day of their lives? That is what it looks like.
Did you hear what she just said? That pressure is relentless. That pressure is not going to quit. Do we have the people that are willing to stand up to that type of pressure every day of their life? Do we have that right now in Congress? Do we have that right now in the Senate? I don't think so. The people who did stand up to that type of pressure, they're gone. The Democratic Party pushed them out. Nowhere, they're gone. So she's right. Notice she said that she's willing to fight back. She's willing to stand up to that type of pressure. Not everyone is, you guys. Even some of the people that ran on this and said that they were willing to fight back, that they were willing to take that pressure. They knew there was going to be a lot of pressure. It's easy to say that before you're in, but then once you're in and you actually feel that pressure and see what it's like, then that's a whole different story. It's a whole different story. I think the best thing that Kshama Sawant ever did was run for local office. She can impact more change as city councilor, and she's already done that. And for those who don't know, Kshama Sawant does not accept her full salary. She donates part of her salary to organizations. That's what you need. You need someone who's willing to do that. Someone who is willing to just say, I really don't need all this money. I'm going to take some of this money and donate it to activist groups and organizations to actually help people in the community. The problem is most people aren't willing to do that. That's a big part of the problem. When he's talking about people wanting to vote independent, listen to this.
You might have seen this already, but a new poll, it's one poll, but it shows 58% of voters are open to an independent candidate if faced with Biden Trump. I think this brings us back to 2016 because I've always thought Bernie had a chance if he would have ran in the general as an independent, Green Party, whatever. What are your thoughts on that? We are obviously saying we can't exclusively depend on electoral politics, but if you have 58%, I mean, you're either going to have Biden or Trump or another highly unpopular Democrat, either first facing Trump or another unpopular Republican. What does that say to you?
It really says how that it's sort of, you know, that poll actually, and in the context of all the things that we just discussed in the last several minutes, I think it shows again there's another chasm here, the gap between where the readiness of working people for a different kind of agenda, political agenda, you know, the readiness, the willingness for a fight back, and the abysmal situation of political leadership that we have in our society, in our country. That's the gap where when 58% of Americans are ready for independent politics, and yet you don't have any significant force on the left that can actually lead on that understands the importance of that, which is why I think it is crucial that organizations like Socialist Alternative, you know, we are ourselves a different kind of organization, and it's a very specific organization. We don't pretend to be that third party or that party for the working class, but we are among the few forces on the left who are just relentlessly pointing out the need for a new party. And look, now you have a poll that says that actually working people Americans are ready for that. But it's not going to happen, you know, just by itself. That has to be taken on as a specific project. And I think that right now it is our responsibility, and you were indicating this earlier, to really make sure that major victories are won in the union struggles, and real contracts are won, strong contracts are won at JFK. Obviously, that's one of the most crucial ones, but also in the Starbucks stores. And at the same time, in this new labor movement, it is also our job to raise the question of a working class party. We have to keep doing that. And then, you know, we have to call concretely, we need to join the new union movement alongside, you know, National Day of Actions, as I was saying, and work stoppages and strike actions. Alongside that, we also have to call for mass conferences where working people, union members, unionizing workforces can come and discuss the need for a new party and what that new party should look like. I mean, it's not just any new party.
Right. You need something for the workers. You need something for working people, because let's be real, the Democratic Party claims to be the party of the working class people. They're not the party of the working class people. There is no party of the work. Like right now, we don't have it. We don't have it. And there needs to be something for the workers, the laborers of this country, where those people can have their voices heard. And when people say, well, they could just have a union or whatever, not everyone has a union. Not everyone can start a union. Like, yes, like you can fight to start one, but not everybody can start a union. And sometimes some of these people that try to organize these unions, these groups are shut down by the company. Sometimes some of these people are fired because they tried to start a union. They still have to pay their bills. So what are they supposed to do? But you need something for the working class people. And right now, the two-party system that we have in this country does not serve the workers. They don't serve the working class. They don't serve poor. They don't, if you're low income, and they're not even really serving middle class people anymore. Pay close attention.
We need a new party that will be accountable to the working class and that will run on, that will be primarily motivated by the program that they want to win and will be rooted in the working class and will not be driven by personality politics. I mean, that will be the death knell. Personality politics will be the death knell of any such new party.
One more.
Yes, personality politics. And we have that. We have personality politics. We have identity politics. It doesn't work. The Democratic Party is really good at that, by the way. Really good at that. Look at how they tried to push Kamala Harris on us. She could be the first Black woman, female, person of color, president of the United States. That's the only reason you should vote for her. They did the same thing with Barack Obama. He will be the first Black president of the United States. How'd that turn out? I know I fell for it too. But you really got to look at what people do. You got to look at what they say, and you really have to look at their past. You have to look at their history and their track record. These are important things. I think there was one more thing he said, or that might be it.
You know, every time I have you on, the most prominent comment I see is, when is Kshama Sawant going to run for Congress? I never go with that because I think there's real utility and benefit in having you on the local scene. But I do have to ask, have you ever considered running?
Well, in the spirit of what I was just saying, again, that question is not something that I would ask myself personally, but, that's a question that would come up in Socialist Alternative, because we are a model of that kind of campaign where, where it's not, the starting point is not the candidate themselves and, wanting themselves to raise their profile, but overall political question. What makes sense? What is the best thing that Socialist Alternative can do right now with its limited resources? Does it make sense to run for Congress or not? So yeah, I mean, those questions have come up in our discussions, in our national meetings, in our local meetings. It's not clear that would be the best use of where we should go. But at the same time, none of that is ruled out, in the sense that if there are genuine, strategic openings for us to do that, and it makes sense to put a lot of effort into it, we absolutely will. Right now, obviously, needless to say, our focus is very much so, including my office itself in Seattle, very much on helping as much as possible build for the unionizing movement in Starbucks and Amazon.
Okay, and I think that is pretty much it there. So I will say, if Kshama Sawant were to run for a Congress position, I would like to see her, number one, not run as a Democrat. That would be a big, not run as a Democrat, not run as a Republican, but to run as an independent like she has before. And I would like to see her primary challenge Pramila Jayapal. That could be a little controversial, but I said it. I would like to see her challenge Pramila Jayapal. Pramila Jayapal is not looking too good right now. Let's be real. Not looking too good right now. But this is the discussion that is going to go into our call-in segment tonight. I'm going to hit up these super chats, and then we'll start to go into that. Thank you for the super chat, Akid. Sabby, Kshama is outlining the strategy to be independent of Dems, GOP, and how to fight the system on behalf of everyday folks. Salute. 100%. Thanks so much for the super chat, Rodrigo. Yeah, I think I did read this, but I'll read it again. Kyle K losing subs and Sabby growing, well-deserved. Thank you so much for that. Lawrence said, Democrats not even willing to donate any part of their bribes. Oof. And a kid says that Kshama is incredible. Love, 100%. Agreed. And I think that, I have a lot to say. I'm going to go into talk more about this in the call-in portion, but I have a lot to say about this. I really think that we need to pay close attention to what Kshama Sawant did and how she won. I've had her team on here before. Socialist Alternative has been on here multiple times. They explained what was happening right before the recall. They explained how they beat the recall afterwards. Kshama Sawant came on here for the activist panel. She has a lot to say. She has a lot of energy. And the difference is she really is a fighter. Not everyone is that way. In fact, most people are not. Most people are not going to fight that type of pressure. The average person is going to succumb to it. That's the thing. So you really need a fighter, but at the same time, I think the model that she used, the fact that she was an activist, she doesn't take her full salary. She donates part of her salary to help out those organizations. She's on the ground with Socialist Alternative to fight back and to protest and to help people get what they need in her district. That's a lot. Is that the model that you think people should look at?